Hello and welcome to the Wednesday check-in brought to you by David Gockstein. Today is April 1st, 2026, and I am your host, Landy. And we are looking at Bitcoin today on the daily time frame. We will talk about oil, Dixie. We'll take a look at gold and silver, and we will look at traditional markets as well. More of a quick overview, and I'm going to touch on something that I talked to David about this morning on the breakdown at 12:15 p.m. Eastern. So one of the things that you do need to note when we get oil coming back down after hitting some key levels overhead is to watch where the liquidity is going. We had Bitcoin actually set a new low, in this case, a daily lower low in this daily downtrend. And, a lot, we're speculating, well, oil's coming down, Dixie's coming down, and markets are moving up off of their lower lows. Why isn't Bitcoin continuing to get that bid throughout the day? And I'm going to point you in the right direction here in just a moment for where to look, as I did warn of this happening prior, and then discuss that a little bit with David today. But for Bitcoin, the areas of interest are really clear. 65K to 62.5 to the downside. More bias towards that downside as long as Bitcoin is hanging out below the basis band, and especially the top side of this tighter range up here between 70,000 and 72 essentially. Now here on spot price, you would want to see closes above 70,500 and 72.2 by the upper first standard deviation. If we did see closes, if we haven't already seen a test up to 74 to 76, then I would be looking for that. And then anywhere, anywhere above there, I'd be looking for a move to 78, 80, and then subsequently mid to low 80s, 83 to 86, 82.5 to 83 to 86. So that's all conditional based on closes. Now, to get above 74, that would be expansion in to test the high, and probably even the overhead resistance here at 78 to 80. We would need to see closes above it and 76K to get expansion into that overhead resistance for the bearish retest of the prior structure that Bitcoin was trying to hold up at. And then potentially get the opportunity to move a little bit further up into the mid to low 80s. But this is a downtrend. In order to break that downtrend, we need to see a close above 72K. And then, on any kind of moves back down, we can then entertain, moves relative to the most recent lower low, right? So a trend break to a trend shift potential structure. As it stands right now, it is just a downtrend. So what the bulls would want to see from here is a break and a close above 72,000, get outside the top side of the range there at 72.2 and start testing the deviation highs of the range here around that 74 to 76. And even if it were to get rejected, come back down and try to find higher low support or equal low support as it relates to 65K. Otherwise, we'd be either looking at a deviation, and that would look something like, essentially what the bulls are looking for is something along the lines of, this is actually going to be one continuous move down. Sorry. So that this would be something along the lines of breaking the downtrend, right? And then coming back down and, finding higher low, equal low structure and then trying to trend up, right? This is just an example. Otherwise, a deviation would look like, a downtrend break and then right back below the low. And as it stands right now, where are we currently? We are currently looking at a downtrending structure that already has a bias towards the downside. Any closes below the lower second here would be expansion into this support zone between 62.5 and 65. Anywhere below there, and I would start to eye that 58 to 60K. And if that does not hold up, or if we start to see closes below 58K, we have to entertain, 54 to 56, and then subsequently mid to low 50s from there down to 52.5. That is a major weekly zone of interest. Anywhere below there, and I'd initially look down to 48 to 50, and then subsequently mid 40s from there. Now, this is all pretty well-worn territory that I've talked about quite a lot. Not much has changed in Bitcoin's, price action to warrant any kind of different outlook right now as it stands on the daily. We'll follow up on Friday with the Friday wrap up to talk a little bit about the longer term timeframes, like the weekly and the monthly. But in this case, I've said this again and again and again, pay very close attention, in this case, to WTI. This is CFDs on WTI. We saw this is essentially U.S. oil, and it is U.S. oil is the ticker. And in this case, we do have this fractured market where we have lower prices in Western Hemisphere oil, in particular in U.S. oil, versus Brent and Dubai oil. Now, if we do see supports held around this 98 to 102.5, I would look right back up to 105 to 110. Anywhere above there, 115 to the highs at 120. And this whole zone is fair game up here, this high time frame macro overhead resistance between 115 and 130. If we do start to see 95 break down, look for 90. Anywhere below there, we can start looking to see if we get any kind of closes that start to breach below the closing higher low here at 88 down to around 84 to 86 bucks. If we do see a break of structure, meaning the uptrending structure here on the daily for oil, what we're likely going to see is the mid to low 70s from there, which is right around where the next higher low swing is to essentially the support, kind of like coming off of the support area off 68 to that 75, mid to low 70s would be fair game, even into the upper $68 region. Now, the main reason that you want to pay attention to this is because if we see that oil continues to head down, we will see Dixie come back down. And Dixie is in an interesting area right now where it did deviate above the 140-cent region. It did now swing down to the 99.30 area. Anywhere below there, I'd be looking to 99 to 98.90. And if that is dropped, that would be a structure break. So that would be an uptrend break on the daily here for Dixie. And in general, when you see oil heading down, Dixie will head down with it. As a general rule of thumb. And then typically you'll see that markets will do okay. And in this case, it did provide for, a nice bounce off of some key levels for Dow, right? Coming off of a major level of interest here at 45K. Moved up to make a higher high swing, did not close above that 46,700 to 46.8 region, but did swing this daily zone up to the 46.8 region. We need to see closes above there to get a clear downtrend break. But even now, just be aware of coming back down and finding support for a higher low, equal low potential structure or a setup. And, that's anywhere between the 46.2 to 3 area down to the 45.5 range. Now, even though we saw some strength come back in the dailies off of the lower low structure in Dow, NASDAQ, and SPY, we saw that, Bitcoin didn't react the same early in the session. It went up, but then got sold off pretty quickly. And I'm going to show you why after I wrap this up. Let's take a look at NASDAQ first. NASDAQ did not get near its last lower high. Technically, its last lower high is 24,314 region. But it did recover the weekly level that it lost above 24K, looking up towards that 24.2 level, and then sold off pretty aggressively thereafter. I would like to see closes back above 24,465, 24.5 for a clear downtrend break on a closing basis, just like I need to see a close for Dow. Otherwise, it's just a continuation of the downtrend. Nice swing above to grab liquidity. for Dow, and then NASDAQ not even keeping pace in that regard. But we still need to be aware of the key areas to the downside. 23K on NASDAQ, anywhere below there, we're going to hunt the upper 22s to mid 22s, all the way down to 22.5 is fair game by the lower third. But beware of any reversal setups if you are on the short side of this. And that being a higher low or equal low or sweep of the lows that fails to close below around that 22.841. Same for SPY. Same kind of look, swung above the weekly, did not get technically a downtrend break would be the high here at 660. I would say you want to see 662 to 665 as an area of interest to get recovered. But, nice reclaim of the weekly between 647 and 657 here, with the close, coming in right around 655. Be aware of any kind of fall below 647 into the mid 640s, because then it opens up the downside here into the 630 region, upper 620 region. Big area. But again, beware if you see oil dropping or getting a spike up causing markets to head down. Dixie would also be up at that point too, in most cases, not all, but most cases. And in this case, be aware of any kind of downside moves from here that result in higher, lower, equal low structure. Otherwise, we're looking for a trend break. So 662 to 663 on a close, and just beware of the lows. For SPY, you need to see, or I would like to see, I should say, 24,465 to 24.5 to break the downtrend, and then start really entertaining any kind of reversal setups, although they could still happen without even breaking the downtrend. And we did get a trend break on a swing, but not a close. Need to see closes above, 46.7 to 46.8 for Dow. Now, why is the rest of the market, in terms of risk assets, kind of taking a back seat here? Well, if we look at where money is kind of rotated into now, it's taking a bit of a risk off approach towards the end of the session, with a move back into gold after recovering towards one of our targets at 48, right by the basis band here. Silver is the same, right around 75. Above there, I'd be looking 76 to even 80. I mean, a failed swing would be around 78 to 80, but if it does recover and continue to head up, it's more of a risk-off look, which does not benefit cryptocurrencies. And we can take a look at bonds too. They did start to sell off towards the end of the session, and they were getting bid up coming into the end of that session, though. So if we look at like the 10-year, we got the bid up, and then it was headed down because it was getting bid, right? So yield was heading down, and then it started to reverse. So we started to see some selling. Yield pops back up off the basis, and then we saw a bit of a rotation into other commodities like gold, silver. I would just watch it, right? If we continue to see a move down in oil, I would be looking for, some of the key areas. 90 to 95 is the main support area to pay attention to on any closes below 98. So if we do see swings into 90 to 95, that's fine. If it closes above 98, that's still showing strength near the most recent highs here. And if we start to see any closes below 90, pay very close attention to the mid to upper 80s around this higher low structure, and any breaks below 84.37, $85 a barrel. And I would be looking for, $80 and then subsequently 75 to 78 being a key area down there. So, and if 75's dropped, we're looking, upper 60s to mid 70s pretty quickly thereafter. So pay very close attention to oil. If it continues to head down, I would look for continued weakness and possibly even a trend break in Dixie. And while we have been getting a little bit of a rotation back into gold and silver, it's more of a trade in my opinion. Just look to Bitcoin if it continues to fail in the areas that it is. currently inside the range. Just pay attention to the downside. 65K above there, it's still, got a good shot for higher low equal low structure, even if this becomes a high, or a continuation of the move to test into 70 to 72 and try to take out the last lower high. But if we do see any kind of strength come back to oil and Dixie below 65, it's expansion into the lows at 62.5 and potentially more towards that 58 to 60. So for right now, shorter term, watch 70 to 72 to the upside. To the downside, watch 65, and if that drops, watch 62.5 pretty closely. And that's pretty much all I got for you today. I really appreciate everybody that's been liking and sharing this stuff out there. Please do so again if you did find this helpful. And for those that also show up to the breakdown, I really appreciate it. I've been watching the chat and some of the discourse there when I am on. And I know David appreciates it, of course. So if you would like to catch me on the breakdown with David, you can catch me Monday through Friday, 12:15 p.m. Eastern, 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where I will break down markets. I do talk a little bit of politics and other things with David. Here, I keep it market focused for you. And yeah, I just wanted to say appreciate y'all. Like and share this out there. And I look forward to talking to you again on Friday with a bit of a higher term time frame look at the weeklies and kind of what to expect throughout the course of April here. And yeah, with all of that being said, you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out. Take care.